for our main event of UFC 292, where Aljamain Sterling looks to defend his bantamweight title against the superstar, Sugar Sean O'Malley. Oh, wait a minute. Pause. All right, now we're ready to go. had to get my gear on real quick, as you could kind of hard to tell, but this is a Sugar Sean O'Malley hat that I did buy in anticipation for this fight about a week ago from his website. So shout out to him. Hopefully people don't immediately hop in the comments thinking that means something here. I think you'll find that I'm going to be pretty fair here, and I do not have a dog in this fight. But I just like fighting. I like fighter merch, man. I can't help it.
Supporting the fighters.
Yeah, Aljo, he's back here. Minus 258. He comes in as it stands right now. Sean O'Malley, a plus 210. Let's start with those betting odds, Dominic. Much more people are aware of Sean O'Malley in the full scale of MMA fans, from casual to hardcore. Of course, we know how good Aljo is. Don't think he's quite had that crossover appeal like Sean O'Malley has, even to an interesting extent. He seems to get booed everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
So some people who maybe are tuning into this card and only watch a couple cards a year, or maybe rarely watch, they're probably going to be a little surprised to see Sean O'Malley at such a heavy dog here. I want to get your thoughts on those odds. Do you feel like Aljo does have a big advantage with his wrestling, with his back takes here? Or does Sean O'Malley maybe have some defense in his arsenal that we just haven't seen yet?
No, I feel like these odds are pretty justified. If you're newer, you got to just realize how good Aljamain Sterling really is. The guy hasn't lost in almost 6 years, multiple title defenses. He's ran through basically the whole division, all of the guys in the top 5, pretty much. It feels like this is where the line probably should be. You look at the grappling, the elite skill set that Aljo has on the ground with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. Sean has not really had to face that very much. I mean, really, one of the moments where we've seen him on his back in the UFC was in a fight that he lost to Marlon Chito Vera, who's also on this card, and even had some trouble with Petr Yan. Yes, he won that fight, but there are weaknesses in Sean's game, or at least weaknesses to say now that we haven't really got to see him display anything other than yet. And maybe we will see that come Saturday night. But going in, that's what these odds are for, and they are justified from what we've seen from both of these guys. The run that Aljo's on right now is really second to none. He went, Noah, so quickly from a guy that became the champion from getting disqualified, or getting his opponent got disqualified, he becomes a champion, right? But now he has quickly jumped into the greatest bantamweight of all time discussion. And it's quite a leap that he's taken while still being booed out of the building, as Noah said, in a lot of the places that he goes. His second win over Petr Yan, the win over Dillashaw, the win over Henry Cejudo, those are elite level wins where he showed elite level skill sets. That's why he's minus 258 in this fight.
I think a big reason why he is a minus 258, you have to account for the wrestling, of course, of Aljamain Sterling. And a big thing I saw this being talked about on Anik and Florian's podcast. Sterling's biggest skill is his positional control, his ability to take the back and really hold position. Sean O'Malley, what he showed on the ground is a certain weakness in those more positional, kind of the fight for position. You saw it against Chito Vera. You're right. There is a good point, though, that for all we know, that a lot of that's been improved upon. We just haven't seen it. And dare I say, in a different fight where, Sean's leg isn't completely compromised, maybe we don't see it even there. But at the end of the day, Chito Vera is not near the grappler of Aljamain Sterling, and he put Sean on his back, and Sean really didn't seem to have much for him once it was there. So if Aljo has him on his back, you just find it hard to believe that that Aljo would find it much of a challenge. And then, of course, getting to the back, if he gets his back, it feels like it might be a wrap from there. I'll also say, Dominic, this isn't just Aljo making a title defense. When you're talking about pound for pound, who's the best bantamweight of all time, when you're counting up all the title defenses, when you're doing all this, Aljo's total number of defenses cannot be quantified by just the defense of the title.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dominic, every time he's fought, even going into winning that title by DQ, he has had to not only win or defend the title, he's had to defend a narrative at the same time.
Mm.
Defend himself from a narrative, maybe I should say. Let's look at when he wins the title.
Sure.
Peter Yan lands an illegal knee. Aljo unable to continue. He is the first guy or first fighter in the UFC to win a title via DQ.
Yes.
The fans attack him,
Yep.
saying he was playing it up. He could have continued. He took the easy way out. He's taking a
Mhm.
picture with the belt on.
Mhm.
They're saying you're not a real champion. So he felt like he had to defend himself from those accusations. Then you have the rematch with Peter Yan, a very close fight, a fight that Sterling came in a heavy underdog for
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the way the first fight went. Sterling gets the split decision. Dana White goes into the post-fight press conference and says,
"Yeah, I thought that the judges blew that one. I thought I had it 3-2 the other way."
Immediately he has to defend himself from what was ultimately not his decision.
Yeah.
The judges scored that fight for him.
Yeah.
What's next? TJ Dillashaw.
He's back.
Probably a guy in that discussion for the best bantamweight of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens in that fight, Dominic? Shoulder pops out of place.
Yep.
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
Turns out it was an injury he had going into the fight. Didn't disclose it because he thought this was his only last shot.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, he was completely compromised, and Sterling just rolled him in that fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
People said, well, you didn't beat the best version of TJ Dillashaw. You got handed that one.
Mm.
He's got to defend himself there. Finally, we saw after that, when it went into his fight with Henry Cejudo, we finally saw him say, you know what, I'm done defending myself. I'll defend my belt.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what the fans have to say about me or my title defenses. At the end of the day, my name's going to be etched in history as a guy who has 2 wins over Peter Yan, who has a win over TJ Dillashaw, who has a win over Corey Sandhagen before that,
Yeah.
who then went on to beat Henry Cejudo. And Dominic, his home, he was a hometown guy.
Yeah.
And afterwards, they still booed him out of the building. And what I'm thankful for, or what I'm happy to see with Aljo, is at this point, there seems to be this weight lifted off his shoulders where he just stopped caring about the narrative.
Sure.
He recognized that you really can't do anything to change it. You make the best out of it, and you just keep fucking winning. And that's what he's done. So now he has put his back against the wall. He's had his back put against the wall by a lot of people here, including the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking him to turn around in about 3 months.
Literally,
Fight a guy
yeah.
in Sean O'Malley who is being propped up as the next potential massive star, who has not fought in nearly a year,
Yep.
who had his own sort of, shades of gray on his run to this fight. A lot of people didn't score his last fight for Peter Yan.
Mm-hmm.
He does have those fights like Andre Sukumtoth, where if Sukumtoth had just forced him to stand up, that fight's probably over.
Yeah.
Yet he doesn't have the same amount of critics coming down on him. So here you have
That's a fucking story.
So here you have a guy in Aljo who, while he may have what Sean O'Malley wants in that prestigious bantamweight title, Aljo looks at Sean O'Malley and says, that's the guy who has everything I want. The stardom, the respect from the fans, the, this or that, the people making excuses for him, the people who will, really jump to his defense. He's like, I wanted that at one time.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if he really cares, but I do believe you're going to see this fight be taken to that level of heat going in, because both guys, in a lot of ways, envy the other.
Talk to him, Noah. Talk to him, Noah. That's the story. If that doesn't make you excited and intrigued about this fight, I don't really know what will. This is, in a way, like, yes, Sean. I'm going to go to the Sean side here because Aljo, from a skill set perspective, has proved himself worthy, especially to hardcore fans like us. For Sean, he in a way still hasn't. Yet he finds himself at number 2 fighting for a title. Like,
Mhm.
I get it. He fought Peter Yan. That's big time stuff. It was a razor thin fight. It was a great fight. He won. Say what you will if you thought Peter won or not. So yes, he's been tested in that extent. But other than that, man, he has just launched himself to number 2 off of one fight. So we haven't seen him go all the way into that deep end yet. And now you're doing that against arguably the greatest bantamweight of all time. That's not easy. That's a very tall task on a guy that this card is built for Sean O'Malley. He's in the
Yeah.
main event slot here for a reason. It's in Boston for a reason here. So this is a big time opportunity for Sean to really, because I'm sure there are haters out there for Sean in terms of like, because they maybe view him as the Conor McGregor type, so they can hate on the stardom and whatnot. So in a way, he can prove a lot of people wrong in that aspect and prove to us that he really is that guy. He is a legit elite level fighter and one of the best in the world right now. That's, I feel like, for me, what I'm viewing for Sean O'Malley here, the guy that is less proven to myself.
And let me just tell you it like this. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me. Despite everything I just said, despite my overwhelming degree of confidence that Sterling at this point in time is the more skilled fighter, I really have a hard time betting this line, Dominic. This minus 258.
Yeah,
And
I can see that.
there's a couple reasons for that. Let's start with the fact we haven't even addressed that Sean O'Malley is a fantastic striker.
Yes.
Absolutely electric.
Yes.
He does have a clear advantage in that aspect here in this fight. He's very creative.
Mm-hmm.
He's very quick on his feet, uses great movement, great head movement. He's long and rangy. He picks his shots well. He's like a sniper in the pocket. I
Sure.
mean, he is terrific. He's really fun to watch in the right matchups, especially. But Dominic, more than that, I want to go beyond the skill factor here. Sometimes, in this sport, and this is not going to be some groundbreaking analysis because you see on paper this huge skill discrepancy and or at least this in theory you see a skill discrepancy between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen this in the past, Dominic, when that guy who gets the rocket strapped to him, we've seen it a few times over the course of UFC history. That guy who's like the next guy, right? Of course, Conor
Mm-hmm.
McGregor is the one that gets compared to, but not just him, others, but obviously him.
Mm-hmm.
When they get that rocket strapped to him, inevitably they reach that fight where it's like now is the time for you to go in and be the underdog,
Yeah.
be in a bad matchup and just I mean it's in like prove everybody right for putting you in this
Yeah.
position.
Exactly.
It's like now or never. This is your chance. This is the bubble. Now is the time to
Mm-hmm.
take your spot among the biggest stars in the company.
Yeah. You win here, your next
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
And I feel like Sean is at that fight right here because a lot of people like to point to him as if he already is that crossover star.
Mm-hmm.
I would disagree a little bit. Like, I don't think there's really anything that's proved that he's some big megastar as of
Yeah.
yet. But if he wins Saturday, he will be. And Dominic, there is these forces that work in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Some may call it the MMA gods. Some may
Uh-huh.
call it fate. But whatever it is, sometimes it don't matter the skill difference. It don't matter who has an advantage over who there, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
All that matters is that Sean O'Malley, it's his time. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, it don't matter how this fight goes. It don't matter where it goes. It don't matter what rounds are in whose favor.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't surprise me if Sean O'Malley finds a way to get his hand raised because fate decided it was his time.
This is big. It's big. This is the first one in a while with that narrative, I feel like, too, that we've seen, especially to this extent, right? The one that immediately came to mind as you were describing this was Darren Till, right? Against Tyron Woodley. That was like the
Okay.
first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you take away the title aspect, it is harder to find. So therefore, Sean's in even more rare territory here. There's only so many guys and girls like him that get to this point in their stardom to where they can win a title, pay-per-view main event, and take that next step. So in a way, it adds even more pressure and builds even more of a narrative here, in my opinion, for this fight.
I was thinking Israel Adesanya as well when he fought Robert
Izzy,
Whitaker.
yeah, Izzy
Maybe
arrived.
even
Yep, that's a good
Kelvin,
one.
maybe one of those two. He
Mhm.
wasn't an underdog against Kelvin, but you get the point, right?
Yeah. And you look at Izzy, where he is now.
Yeah, needless to say, I know I've done a lot of talking for both guys here, kind of what the vested interest is for either guy. But at the end of the day, it's a huge fight, no matter what. I don't even need to do all this, like
Mm.
painting a picture and
It's a very
telling the
exciting
story.
fight.
I
Yeah.
think even on its own, it's a highly exciting fight. Is it going to deliver in terms of excitement? We will see.
Mm.
I tend to believe we're going to get some form of excitement here. I truly do not believe, I know a lot of people do, that Aljamain is just going to ride out Sean O'Malley for 25
No.
minutes. I just don't
No.
think that's going to end up happening. I think that could be in the cards, but I see either O'Malley leaving an opening before that happens, or maybe Aljo leaves an opening and then he's waking up staring at the lights.
Someone will have an emphatic finish in this main event.
An emphatic finish.
Mm.
What's more likely?
Okay.
Aljo by KO or Sean by submission?
We've had one of these main events before where you've asked something like that. I would say Aljo by KO because it would more than likely be a ground and pound KO. I'd be if
Okay.
Sean
That's
subbed.
fair.
If Sean subbed, that'd be crazy. That'd be big.
That's pretty fair. Doesn't he have he has a pretty good belt in jiu-jitsu, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does have one submission win.
I don't know if he has a black belt. I was going to say that, but I wasn't confident enough to say that.
He has a belt. How about that?
He has a belt. I mean, even white belts have a belt, but
Yeah.
yeah, let's